Yeah, sure.
Cool.
That'd be awesome.
I like it. Whenever Tep is ready.
I'm rolling.
Oh, we're rolling. So we're ready to rock.
Very cool.
Testing. Okay, good.
Check.
I think we're good.
Checkity.
Check. Yep. Cool. Well, of course, welcome to the Nothing But Show. It's an honor and a privilege to have BJ Shea sitting here with us. And Steve, I'm not even going to attempt the last name.
Yeah, Migliori.
I'm not even going to try
The producer.
So, Steve the producer is where it's at. Now, most of our listeners are from Southern California. I just recently moved up here to the Seattle area in May.
Nice.
So I got turned on to your guys' show. Actually, from my dad lives down in Gig Harbor. He's like, you got to check this out. I've been a big fan of, you guys were talking about yesterday, Kevin and Bean down in L.A.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah. So you lived in SoCal. Yeah, Bean's a friend of ours, and they do a hell of a show down there.
That amazing show. And it's hard to kind of find another show to fill that. But coming up here and trying to find a morning show, I don't want to stream their show on my way to work because I have the cheap data plan. So it's good to get a good show. And you guys have an amazing show. So I have to say, first of all, it's really neat to have those shoes filled so easily.
Steve, how about that, man? I mean, it's one thing when someone comes from another part of the country where they didn't have good radio.
Right, Kevin and Bean's quite a show.
Yeah, it's like, well, you know what? I just got here from Topeka. You guys really have an amazing show. Well,
I love Taco Bob and the fish, but then all of a sudden I couldn't find anything.
But to come to Seattle after being in L.A., and though I will say I think that Kevin is the true talent of the Kevin and Bean show.
Right. Which is why they keep Bean here in Washington.
Exactly.
Good call.
It's like the closet up here. No, but no, definitely. It is big shoes to fill, but you guys do a hell of a job up here. And I understand you just had your 13th year anniversary party.
Yeah, 13th year doing radio here because we started off as a midday show, and then back in 2006 they gave us the morning show on the rock station here in town. And so, but 13 years all totaled, and with the same company. Not though they did try to get rid of me, but I fought it, and then they said, "All right, come on back." And lots of suspensions and all sorts of just lawsuits and everything. But the last 6 or 7 years actually have been relatively drama free.
Yeah.
The good ones, right? We'll count those.
A couple speed bumps, I like to call them in the road, but we got over them.
Yeah, that's a good point. And knock on whatever you've got, wood or fiberglass or whatever, man. It's cool, and it's a great industry to be in, audio entertainment, and it's all over the place now because with the internet you can do it anywhere, like what your show is, and man, there YouTube, everything. It's pretty. I'm stoked to be part of this industry. I think it's going to be amazing as we see what's going to go down the road in the future with this biz.
I'm really curious to see where podcasts end up in 10 years because right now it's like everyone's doing one to see, hey, I'm going to do one because I have a computer. But once all the kind of crap gets weeded out, I'm really curious to see where it goes down.
Yeah,
I mean,
Steve.
My show will probably be over by then too. But
I'm thinking the STP cast. Once they get rid of that particular blight on the podcast community,
we are hurting the podcasting world.
It's interesting because it's interesting because Kevin Smith said that he looks at his podcast, and of course his Smodcast, he's very successful.
Oh yeah,
but he said in an interview that they're really like a commercial for all the stuff that he does. So it's tough if people like him think maybe it's a commercial where people like you and us would look at our podcast like, well, actually, no, this is what we do. This is our sort of art expression where Kevin has got his live shows, his movies, and the podcast seems to be a vehicle to promote those artistic expressions. What about us?
I was going to say, what about us who have nothing else going on the side?
I got nothing to promote.
Nothing to promote here.
The show is what it is. So hopefully you're right. Hopefully there will be a change where the podcast won't be a commercial, but the podcast will actually be something that people want to hear and make an appointment for.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. And once Wi-Fi is in everybody's car here pretty soon, it's going to be curious to see where it goes. But aside from that, one of the biggest things for me and what made me do a podcast is I always wanted to be in radio and never took the money. Well, I never had the money, but never took the time to try and go to broadcasting school. So I didn't learn all my non-regional diction and those kind of things. But one of the things that I loved talking to when I interviewed Bean, and Bean came into our studio down in L.A. before I moved up here, was how personalities got into radio. What drew you to being into radio in the first place? I mean, because the theater of the mind part of it for me, I used to listen to Greaseman way back in the day.
Greaseman, yeah.
And that was what made me want to do radio. And I used to
Uh-huh.
think as a kid, like I had to buy a radio station to be on the air, and I realized that's not the case. But what was it for you, and even you, Steve? Like, how did you guys both find this business, or how did the business find you?
Well, Steve, how about you, sir?
I listen to a lot of radio. I think that's probably where a lot of us wind up wanting to do radio. I grew up listening to Howard Stern, and that was appointment radio for me. I mean, I would go to school, and I'd leave my mom a cassette, 120-minute cassette.
Tape
be like, hey, flip it at after the hour's done, so I could. And then I'd come home and I'd listen to it. And then at night,
dating yourself, Steve.
I know, right? Cassettes with I had the high-tech cassette, which would flip it then by itself. So then Mom was out of the question and out of the picture.
Good call.
Right?
You can't trust other people with your technology.
And then at night, I would listen to the sports talk show. Steve Summers, who was on WFAN, which absolutely loved, and would call and bug him all the time to the point where he would always tell me I'm Steve from Brooklyn, and he would always get quickly annoyed from me.
Stop calling.
Yeah, he would actually tell me to stop calling, which was funny.
Call screeners are blocking you.
I would call to talk about the New Jersey Devils, and at the time, oddly enough, now they're the flagship station for the Devils, but at the time, they were the flagship station for the Rangers. So to put a guy on that wants to talk about the Devils was like sacrilege. And so that was, and then Dr. Demento was a guy I always listened to when you talk about theater of the mind.
Oh, definitely.
That was he's a genius when it came to that stuff. You listen as a kid and just be entertained by his songs, by his bits. And I just, my friends and I, we would always just, as kids, just pretend radio all the time. We'd have a tape recorder and put on our own shows, and never would have thought though, 20 years later or 30 years later now, that I'd be doing it as a profession,
and making BJ's life miserable.
No, I try.
Yeah, and he does a great job at it.
Thank you.
It's fun to hear Steve's story because it's similar to mine. Where you did it in high school and listened to personalities. We had a 12-year-old kid call into our show recently
who Toppy hates.
But he loves radio. He loves baseball, and he loves calling into radio shows. And I thought, man, that was me because I did the same thing. I called into a sports station in the Boston area. It was more about the Red Sox, and I would try to do my impressions. And they knew I was a 15-year-old kid. And I would try to sound as old as I could, but you just couldn't. My voice was very high. You couldn't hide it. Hi, here's what I want to say. And I go, really? Is it you again? And I grew up listening to some really great personalities. I mean, you had Stern in New York. We had Charles Laquadera in Boston, and both great personalities. And I didn't realize what I was doing was radio. Like Steve said, we had cassette recorders. We were recording soundtracks off of TV shows and doing parodies and bits. But I didn't know
mixtapes.
I didn't know what it was. Until all of a sudden, it dawned on me walking by a radio station at a college. I was undeclared, didn't know what the hell I wanted to do, and then all of a sudden, it just a light went off. Like, oh, wait a minute, radio. You mean you can train for this? Like you don't have to know somebody? And that's where it all started for me. And they didn't have any classes in college, but I went and worked at the college radio station, and it pretty much started from there. And 100 years later, here I am, man.
Well, I don't know how it necessarily works everywhere. I know down in L.A., come to find out, most of those guys that work at K-Rock, other than your Kevin and your Bean, didn't really go to broadcasting school. Most of them started out driving a van, and all of a sudden they sit there tugging on someone's sleeve long enough, and they get an overnight shift, and now, like Mike Catherwood down there, and then he's on Dancing with the Stars, and it's like, dude, you used to drive a van,
Isn't that crazy?
So
it's
true.
Psycho Mike, right?
Anthony used to call in to Opie all the time and give him grief, and then Opie said, well, finally, why don't you come in if you think you can do better, kind of a situation. Same thing with Bob Rivers and his partner Spike. Spike used to work at a car dealership and was giving Bob grief. Yeah, and I'm the idiot that paid for broadcasting school. Steve actually went to a 4-year college, and really we didn't need it.
So some people think that it's so planned, like they met off the air and were best friends, and let's do a radio show together. It's like that's not how it works most of the time.
Everyone has a different story. And I, like yourself, who was asking these questions about how we all got into it, I love hearing everybody's stories about why they wanted to do it because. Yeah, I grew up. In the world of radio, I started off working at the end downstairs, and a lot of the DJs were street teamers, and then eventually kept bugging someone enough or doing weekend shifts, and that's how I partially got my shot on the air, was doing an overnight weekend shift. You just took whatever opportunity you could get because. That was the only way you would be able to get your voice on the air. And then hopefully you do something good enough that your program director notices it and gives you an opportunity.
Or enough people don't call and go, get that guy off the air. Who is that guy?
Right. Yeah. And I think that nowadays, because weekend shifts seem to be a thing of the past. And I think podcasts have kind of become the quote-unquote minor leagues for radio, whereas the weekend shifts were that at one point. That's where you kind of got your opportunity to learn how to talk about things on the air, how to tell a story. And I think the podcasting world now, the cream will rise, and I think for those that want, like yourself, who wants to get into radio, that could be the way that you get your foot in the door.
See, I agree with you to a point. My hardest thing with that is being on the podcast. Obviously, there's no FCC regulation.
Right.
So most of the time, there's F-bombs on our show flying all the time. So how do you go from, and I guess it's a rhetorical question, but from X amount of years of doing a podcast to taming your mouth and trying to get back on something that's regulated? That's where I think maybe the issue would be, because there's a lot of guys that come on Kevin and Bean show that do, like Kevin Smith. He'll come on and podcast mouth, and they're hitting the dump, every 10 seconds.
I don't know about you, BJ. I feel like once the headphones go on, it almost turns a switch off. Okay, curse mode has to come off, because when our headphones are off and the mics are off, we're like, oh yeah. I mean, just vile language. I mean, I sometimes have to be like, oh man, I think I said the F word every other word in that last sentence I said to BJ. But
the only difference, Steve, is that you and I never had the opportunity to swear with our headphones on.
That's a good point.
So that was always the sacred ritual. The headphones go on and the bad words go off.
Yeah.
So you, unfortunately, you've put headphones on and you've said swear words. So yeah, it's going to be a challenge. But if somebody's going to pay you a decent bit of money that you can make it your full-time job, I have every confidence in you that you will figure out how not to say bad words. You will do it because you'll go, I want to get paid for this. And it depends. We'll see how the FCC relaxes over the next few years, because there's a lot of words that they say we can't say that are part of everybody's lexicon now. It's ridiculous that the S word can't be done. And, maybe the F word will be out of there, and maybe a CS probably can't be thrown in. I don't know. But, the S word, I think, should be given the ability to be said now, because everybody talks S.
Well, now you're watching on, FX, and I mean, who ever thought there'd be a day where you watch a basic cable channel and Always Sunny in Philadelphia, every other word seems to be the S word or the a-hole. And
look what Tosh gets away, and Brickleberry, that stuff. I mean, the things they get away with on there, it's amazing.
And they actually can. I mean, that's the thing that people don't understand about cable. It is not regulated. The only reason they do edit themselves at all is because they don't want the advertisers getting peppered by upset listeners, so they go, okay, and viewers, and go, all right, well, we won't swear because we need the money. But they can say whatever they want on anything they want. They could show animals having ridiculous activities with human beings if they wanted to. There's no regulation for them like it is for radio stations.
It's funny you say it, because I was watching that South Park documentary, 6 Days to Air, and they were saying the things we did back in the day we thought were so over the edge now look tame, like a children's story compared to what we're doing now. And they cut to a scene of one of the parents, and he's just, I don't even want to say it. Describing it is disgusting, but it's like, and other things as well. And they're just like, we can't believe that we get away with this. And they show their person has to talk to the censors, and they're just like, yeah, they want to do this, that, and the other thing with this, and this animal's involved. Okay, cool. We have to just change that one line. Sure,
no problem.
It's amazing though.
No, it really, and like you said though too, BJ. I mean, things have become part of everyone's lexicon. I mean, even last week, not to brush on politics, but you had the president saying, he's a bull esser and this kind of thing. It's like that kind of stuff you would have never heard before, and because people use that kind of language all the time, I think it's getting to that point.
I think it should be relaxed, and I don't know who, the FCC is kind of a useless job anyway. It really is. They're
them and the TSA.
Yeah. Well, the TSA doesn't affect my income, so they can do whatever they want. Until they affect my life, I don't care about anybody.
But they might steal your shoes.
Oh, well, that's why I don't put anything valuable in there, man.
I know.
You just whatever. Though I do have, I'll have a graphic novel that I really want, and I go, look, are there any nerd TSA guys? They're probably not going to grab this, but I would be bummed if I open up my suitcase and all of a sudden it's like, damn it, I really wanted to read that.
I love my wife was saying, we saw that story about how, the people in the TSA are stealing stuff, and she's like, well, what, should we start getting locks for our luggage? I'm like, yeah, but they have to be TSA approved, meaning they have to have a key to be able to open them. So you're locking it against the people that you want to lock it against, but they have access to it.
They're not going to take it.
It's one giant joke.
Exactly.
And I love, I love the fact that I get X-rayed, because they have to look at my fat ass. It's like everyone thought, oh, they're going to look at me naked, like everybody is gorgeous. I go, dude, I know what I look like. Believe me, they let them look at you, because there's more of me coming through, and they got to see that action.
Yeah.
So
they're putting the blinders on.
I don't care. It's like, I don't care if people see me naked. I mean, we get so worried about stupid stuff in this country. What I care about is, do I have enough money to be able to make to pay my bills? Can I drive my car without falling into a sinkhole? Instead of all this stupid stuff, since you talked about, of course, all the political things, the stupid stuff that people think they should be worried about cracks me up. I don't know how people are that dumb, but they are. And that's America, damn it.
Well, that's one of the things, it kind of brings me back around to listen to your show and moving up here is I haven't grown up here, so I don't have the predisposed whatever to listening to you guys. So I come up with a total fresh set of ears, and I get to hear, you're BJ, you're very open with your points of view from being from the East Coast and how things are different up here. And obviously, me not being from here, I'm still a West Coaster, but coming up here, it's definitely a different environment. But it's really cool to hear your show. I heard you guys talking about polyamory the other day, and that's why I brought that up. Because I've been of the same sort of belief to a point, but try convincing anyone in today's society of that. But I think you hit it on the point. And for my listeners, polyamory is, I don't know, I guess the best way to explain it would be multiple relationships with, poly, meaning many.
Yeah, but, everybody's on board, too. That's if it's true polyamory.
Right, it's not cheating.
Yeah, everybody's on board. Somebody might have 2 husbands or 3 husbands, but then they can go out and hang out with another guy as long as and vice versa. It's like it's multiple relationships, and everybody's cool with it.
But you guys had callers the other day, and you really hit it on the head how you were talking about how it was a generational gap, because someone from your generation would be a lot more apprehensive to doing something like that. And you had a caller that I think was like 18 who was like, yeah, let's do it. It's a party. Yeah. So for someone like me, I mean, I'm 33. I'm definitely in between on that. And I haven't brought this up with the wife. So don't worry. There's no story there.
We'll send her this audio.
But,
good luck to you on that one.
But it just as a social rule, I find it fascinating how you would think that socially we would have gotten to that point by now, and we're not. And there's so many things. And I personally, I mean, this is a lot longer than what we have time for today, but I think it's based in religion, obviously. It's based on a lot of those things that people's social standards that they have for themselves based on whatever affiliation they have. But I didn't get to hear the rest of that part of it because I had to get to work. But
it was amazing.
What was
it's the best show we ever did, the part you didn't hear.
That's right.
What was the final? I mean, was there
BJ slept with 4 saleswomen.
Yeah.
And had his wife listen in.
This is going to be embarrassing. And Steve, I don't know, do you remember?
What?
See, here's what happens to me, and I don't know if it's I'm getting old or whatever, is that we do so many topics and so whatever, I don't exactly remember, like, sometimes what happened.
That's why I picked one that was last week.
I know. Well, you had that time where your wife's like, what'd you have for lunch today? You're just like, I
know. This is
no idea.
It's so embarrassing because there'll be people that will have best ofs on, and they'll, all of a sudden somebody will be screaming at me on Facebook, and I'll go, what? I'm on vacation. I don't understand.
Nick, what did we talk about?
So how did it end up? We go real quick and we change the topic a lot on stuff. Steve, do you have a clue?
I mean, I think that it basically ended how you probably already walked away from it. A lot of BJ's opinions are right up in the front, and then we just kind of grind them out and talk about them for a few minutes. But
well, I guess that's kind of where I was going with it.
Yeah,
it ended up
the
same way with me. But my whole point to that, I guess, was a lot of times when you listen to other shows,
we're the worst. I'm sorry. I know.
I mean, I could tell. I will give you an opinion about what I believe about what you said about religion, because I'm such an in-the-moment person, which does speak to this kind of job that I do. When it comes to broadcasting, because I do just in the moment. Here I am. Here's what we do, and I really get this performer's mentality, and then it's gone, almost like a relief pitcher, so I can go out and do a good job the next day. I don't know if it's by design or if I'm just losing my mind,
or both. Yeah.
Yeah. But I will say, how it ends for me is that you brought up religion. Religion is when you fundamentalize anything, including like the green movement, carbon footprint. That's become a religion.
Oh, yeah.
The global warming religion. Whether or not you believe it or don't believe it, I don't know. I'm not a scientist. But the idea is they make a religion out of everything in order to control people's free will and empowerment. That's what bothers me about it. And it's usually like, a small group of Illuminati type people who want to do that to the masses because they don't believe the masses can be trusted, so they got to control them. And religion, as far as a spiritual religion, they've been doing that for years. But there's religions. There's business religion. There's, like I said, the green movement religion.
Atheism is almost a religion at this point.
Anything
Absolutely.
Anarchy can be a religion.
Oh, yeah.
It's like it's anything to control the masses by disempowering them, which pisses me off because you have to lie and deceive to disempower people, and that's BS. Let people have as many. Look, if you want to have to be responsible for more than one woman's happiness, then just go ahead. I think you're insane. You know what I mean? I've got a daughter and a wife.
Good luck.
I don't want to be responsible for any other women's happiness. But there are people who go, I'm all for 5 of them. Okay, like the guy on Sister Wives. What is he, insane? That television show? I mean, all right, buddy, whatever. There can't be enough good sex with any of them to have to put up with what comes on between the sex.
It's the risk versus reward for sure.
Yeah, but that doesn't bother. What does that have to do with my life? If a guy wants to pay a chick for sex or vice versa, why should there be a law? I still have to pay my bills, and it's not going to fix the roads whether those two are paying for sex or not. Who cares? but people who want to disempower people care.
I agree 100%, and I think that was where I was headed with that. Thanks for steering me back the right direction. But I really think that that's what makes your guys' show such a positive thing as a new listener, because you're not afraid to just come out and give your opinion. A lot of times people play to their audience, and I find that you definitely don't do that, and I'm sure you get a lot of flack for it, but you definitely put it out there, and it's to be respected. It really makes for a good show.
You know what I think it is we're fair. You know, there are people that do shock jock shows, and they pretend to be shocking, but they don't have a valid argument to stand behind, and that's why people get pissed. You know, the reason we can do this and not get too much flack, I mean, we get flack, but not too much, is because you know, we're real about what the opinions are, and they come from a real valid place as opposed to a contrived place, and that's why we get away with it. It's like, you can say I'm an idiot for what I believe, but my points are valid, and I'm also a very fair person. I'm a live and let live guy. I don't believe in, you know, just giving a person a hard time because they're doing something that I don't like. If it's legal and it's not infringing upon my ability to have a good life, what do I care? And that's like, and Steve's the same. We're really like that. And we will fight for the right to be able to say that and for people to be able to do that. So that's where if someone gets in my face, I go, dude, that's the most American thing I can do, is say, let them live and let live. That's America. And then people get mad at that because they go, oh, it's not Judeo-Christian America. No, just shut up with all your ridiculousness and your stupid logic that makes no sense. You know, America's about doing what you want as long as you don't hurt anybody else. Hello? That's what everybody wanted. That's what Tommy the Jeff wanted, right? Johnny Hancock
Tommy
and his
Jeff,
big signature.
Huh? You guys are on that level now.
TJ, man.
Yeah.
That's what I call
Tommy
him,
the
TJ.
Jeff.
That's right.
I mean, that I approve this message. I don't think I can add anything else to that. That's a hell of a place to leave
I'll
it.
never get elected, though, because I don't have an R or a D on my chest that I.
You have a D on your chest for sure.
Oh, do I really? It's a pretty good D, Steve.
No.
What?
Sorry, I never take
least it's
anything
not an
serious.
S on
That's the
his
beauty.
chest, right?
BJ gets so worked up about these things, and he's so passionate about it, and then he looks at me, and I'm just like, I could give a crap.
Steve,
But that's just like, that's the beauty. I think that's where the audience can connect, because there are many people that do connect with what he's saying, and there are people like me who appreciate the passion. But at the end of the day, I'm like, it doesn't affect me. I don't care about anything.
Steve's always there to turn it into a good dick joke in a second. So
if I can,
that's what's good.
And I'll tell you, he is like a lot of people, especially here in Washington State. There are like hundreds of thousands of women, more women registered to vote than men. Men around here just don't care. I think because deep down they go, you know what, it's all BS. I think they understand that this country will run no matter what idiots in any office. It will run, because if it didn't run, then we would basically go, oh, it's time for a coup. Mm-hmm. So our politicians are smart enough to know they can steal from us as long as we're comfortable. Yeah. That's really what this country's all about. And you know what? Most of us don't have a problem with it.
And I was going to say, that's about true. As long as it works that way, no one's really going to complain.
Which is still better than a lot of other countries. Just don't come on my show and give me any BS if you're deluded by a particular party thinking that they actually mean something. They're thieves.
It's so funny, too. Whenever you say anything about something, somebody will cite a website, or, hey, you should watch Loose Change, or you should watch Zeitgeist. And it's like these things, like, that's one side of it. And that's great that you're passionate about it, but at least do yourself a favor and do a quick internet search, even if you want to be lazy, but do an internet search to see that, you know, for everything that's being said on that, there are people that are disputing it, and those people bring up valid points as well.
There's a counterpoint to everything. Everything, and there always will be, and that's what makes the conversation keep. That's why we vote someone else every 4 years. It just keeps on going.
But it gets frustrating because it's like you want to believe something, and then you're like, "Wow, there's all these points that are proving that it's wrong. What the hell do I believe then?" Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like where's that one almighty person to come down and be like, "No, this is the fact. I have all the proof to prove it." You know,
that almighty person doesn't exist.
And it's top shelf.
Yeah, and that's good that Steve is on the show, because you know, you really need a good balance to have I think a very entertaining show. It's a mixture of all kinds of emotions, a mixture of seriousness as well as levity, and and Steve really is the kind of guy going, dude, okay, first of all, we need some marijuana for most of your conversations, and second of all, I get tired of them after about 30 seconds.
That's the real reason I moved up here, by the way.
Oh, the great weed.
502.
Solid point.
502, man.
You're very close to Vancouver.
Oh yeah, baby. You know what? This is the Green Party up here, baby.
It's at its freshest
and
here in Washington.
I thought it was good in Southern California.
Yeah, I thought it was good in New York, and I came here and I thought I almost overdosed on weed because it was so awesome.
I moved to Ballard, and I was literally 2 doors from a dispensary. I was like, well, I guess I'm in the right place.
What was the name of the dispensary? I always love their names.
Freedom.
Wow. That might be the best one.
I think it is.
That's
No,
great.
the best part was the giant lifted F50 with the Freedom sticker down the side of it and Freedom.com. So I take my daughter for a walk out. Daddy, what's Freedom?
It's a doctor.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll tell you on November 7th.
Yeah, and I have to say, man, that's impressive because you come from the place where the Kush Doctor is all over Venice Beach. I
Seriously.
saw a lot of dispensaries down there. I
I
thought
had
that
a
was
medical
amazing.
card down there.
Yeah,
For what?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anxiety or something? Stage fright.
Yeah.
I got a bad back.
Yeah, I bet you do. From
I got a
carrying
week
all that
back.
weed.
How long have you had that week back? Oh, about a week back.
Exactly.
Oh, woo, 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 woo.
Well, you guys, I appreciate you taking the time. I really do, and especially after doing your show and letting me come here to your studio. So you guys are going to be our first show back. We took a break this summer for me to move up here.
Yeah.
So you're going to be our first show back. It's going to be a hell of a thing. So hopefully we get some more listeners in Seattle because most of our listeners are down there and everywhere else in the world.
Well,
so
we'd love to spread the word, man.
Yeah, let us
and,
know so we can post it on our Facebook
And listen,
get the word out.
if I can give a quick plug out for
Anything,
can I
please.
plug my podcast, Steve?
please do.
Yes,
Because
plug it.
the one thing we do a podcast, so whether or not you like the morning show or whatever, because look, you got Kevin and Bean anyway, so there's a lot of great radio in LA. But we have a podcast for all things geeky. So if you have any listeners at all that are slightly geeks, man, we have a podcast called BJ Shea's Geek Nation, which you can just go to BJGeekNation.com. I don't even know my own website.
Don't go to BJ's.com.
Yeah,
that's a
that's
whole
right.
different
That's
website.
my kind of site. Yeah.
BJGeekNation.com, and we basically do a morning show, but it's all about geeky stuff. It's a lot of fun, and we get guests, and we talk Walking Dead and comic books and sci-fi and anything you can think of.
And it's fun. It's not like a nerd ragey type of a show. And it's
No.
not, I mean, I'm not even on. But I've listened to it, and it's an entertaining show. They come from a place of just group of guys and girl that enjoy all things geeky and just want to nerd out about it in an exciting way.
Yeah.
And then if you want a different podcast, Steve has one where he rubs Icy Hot on his balls.
Oh yes.
Yeah, there's that one. And
Yes.
all these podcasts you
See,
can...
I told you I'm learning. I'm new to the area,
love
but
it.
this is what I'm retaining.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look, that's true, man. I mean, everyone on our show hosts their own unique podcast, which is kind of cool. Just go to KISW.com, K as in killer, KISW.com, and you can get all the podcasts there. There's a lot of time in the day to, people got stuff to do, but that would be awesome. And of course, thank you for sharing us with your listeners too, man. That's awesome because we don't have we don't have a lot of people down in SoCal, right?
This is awesome. No, I don't think
And
so.
I mean, my wife right now and my daughter are sort of part-time living down there these days while my daughter gets some hip treatment, so she's in the Irvine area.
So if any of your listeners want to show them around town,
There you go.
there you go.
they're available.
Wow.
I didn't mean it that way.
My daughter probably would actually get a kick out of that. She's looking to make some French. She doesn't
And
know
here come
anybody.
the emails.
Yeah, I know.
Wait, she
There
wants to
they
learn
go.
French?
I'll have to. Well, you know what? If I don't know how often you're going to visit down there, but we should get. If you're down there, we should grab a bite or do another podcast or whatever, and I'll bring my daughter.
Definitely. Well, thanks a lot, you guys. I appreciate the time. And KISW.com. Go check out all their stuff, all the podcasts. And if you're in the area in Seattle, make sure you tune into the show every morning. Thanks, guys.